Hello and welcome to Cheating Exposed. Today, we're revealing, caught my wife cheating, she swore she'd change. She didn't. Turns out she never stopped seeing him. Divorce is happening. I'm in my mid-30s and have a young child with my wife. Ever since he was born, she has been distant and short with me, and it's gotten worse over the last 3 months. She has made friends without kids and started going out more. When I ask to be included, she always has an excuse not to bring me along, not hard when one of us has to be with our child. When I brought up how I feel, she told me that she feels like she's lost her identity through pregnancy, breastfeeding, and motherhood. She says she just wants to get out and be around people who don't have kids and live her own life for a bit. As part of this, she'll go out until 2 a.m. and take weekend trips without me. It feels like she's withdrawing from me, and I know she's not always being honest. I don't go through her phone, but I've noticed she never leaves it out anymore, not even for a second. She even takes it with her to the shower, something she never used to do. I don't think she's being unfaithful, but the thought has certainly crossed my mind. When I asked her directly, she got very upset and told me this wasn't about that. I told her I want to be a part of what she's going through. She said I don't have the passion for the things she enjoys and that I need to find my own passions and my own friends. I genuinely enjoy her main hobby, but when I tell her that or try to be included, she insists I don't love it the way she does. She just wants to be around people who share her level of passion. I feel like I'm losing my best friend of 15 years. My toddler is the only light in my life. I don't know what to do, I've been so sad. Things have been off with my wife. We've been together for 15 years and married for 5. We have a 14-month-old, and things have been rough since he was born, getting a lot worse in the last few months. She's gotten face injections and lost weight in a way that makes me suspect drug use. She's been overly protective of her phone and generally dodgy. I confronted her and was completely gaslit, to the point that I set an appointment with a therapist because I thought I was being paranoid and insecure. I needed to figure out why I felt this way. Yesterday, she went to the mountains, saying she needed a weekend to herself. She wanted to go snowboarding and get a full night's rest away from the fussing baby, but something felt off. She went back on birth control without discussing it with me. She got face injections, got waxed, and even asked me to put the board rack on her car roof, despite claiming she was going alone. There were too many red flags for me to ignore, so I hired a PI. The PI immediately secured photographs and video of the affair. Turns out she's sleeping with her boss. They'll be up there until Sunday, probably still together right now. I feel like a fool. We've all hung out multiple times. I'm so mad that she could blow up not just our lives, but the life of our 1-year-old. I'm stuck having to deal with her because of our shared son for essentially the rest of my life. I contacted a lawyer to file for divorce and plan to confront her when she gets back, but the divorce isn't likely to process for over a year. This is going to suck for a long time. I found out my wife was having an affair with her boss. For context, we've been together for 15 years, married for 5, and have a 15-month-old son. She told me she was going on a girls' trip, but in reality, she picked up her boss and spent the weekend with him at an Airbnb. I had been suspecting infidelity for a while. I even confronted her, but she completely gaslit me. I started thinking the problem was me. I went to therapy, trying to figure out why I had trouble trusting my partner, why I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. When she left for her trip, I made the decision to hire a PI. At worst, I figured I'd owe her an apology for not trusting her. But at least I'd have peace of mind. Turns out, I didn't need to wait long. Within 45 minutes, the PI had photos and video. I saw her pick him up, casually kiss him, and later that night, they went into the Airbnb together. I got the confirmation on Friday. She didn't come home until Sunday morning. The whole time, she texted, called, and acted like nothing was happening. I had a breakdown after finding out. The first person I called was my therapist. One silver lining of the gaslighting is that I already had an established therapist. The second call was to my sister, who lives a few hours away. She came over to help me stabilize. Once I gathered myself, I started thinking about my next steps. I needed to be out of the house, but still in a position to have my son at least 50% of the time. In case anyone ever finds themselves in a similar situation, here's what I did: secured my firearms. I contacted my hunting buddy and asked him to take my rifles and bow. Even though I kept them in a safe, I didn't want my wife to use them against me in a custody battle by claiming the house was unsafe. Installed a nanny cam. I live in a one-party consent state, so I recorded the confrontation to prevent false accusations of DV or abuse. Found a temporary place to live. I secured a short-term Airbnb to bridge the gap until my month-to-month rental started. Both places had to be in a good area and accommodate working from home. Kept seeing my therapist. As crazy as it sounds, making a decision in this situation feels impossible. If I leave, I'm giving up half of my time with my son, 9 years of his life between now and adulthood. That's not a decision I take lightly. Prepared for the confrontation. I practice my conversation over and over. I plan to keep it under 5 minutes to avoid escalation. I know about the affair. I'm not ready to talk. I'm moving out while I figure out a path forward. We need to discuss custody in the short term. I also rehearsed possible responses: anger, sadness, denial, shifting blame, so I wouldn't be caught off guard. One important thing: don't try to win. Don't get petty. Don't set their stuff on fire. Don't intentionally piss them off. If you have a child, this person will be in your life forever. It's already going to be hard, don't make it worse. And definitely don't give them ammunition they can use against you. Unfortunately, I didn't expect the no response. She just sat there. No apology. No excuses. No admission of guilt. Nothing. In the days since, I've continued therapy and recognized the gaslighting and emotional abuse I went through. Apparently, this is common in infidelity. It helps cheaters justify their actions. Helps them sleep at night. Even now, she's trying to manipulate me into taking her back, using our son as a reason to work things out. I don't trust her. Worse, I don't trust myself to talk to her without getting gaslit again. I've set up a session with a marriage counselor on Monday, not to fix things, but to establish a neutral space for us to discuss how to co-parent. She's already claiming this was a one-time mistake. I don't believe her, but I also don't have proof that she's lying. Not sure how I'll handle that. I can't see a future where I stay married to her. But I also can't imagine walking away from my son without knowing I did everything possible to be there for him. This sucks. It's going to suck for a long time. Don't cheat. Update. A while back, I wrote about catching my wife in an affair with her boss. Let's call him Benny and her, Chrissy. I've had a crazy amount of DMs asking if I was all right and asking for updates, so I'm going to drop this last post before deleting the account. If you want the background, you can check my post history. I'm not going to rehash it all again. Also, understand that this is not a complete history. It's been a long 8 months. Very shortly after I moved out, a friend told me that Chrissy went out to dinner with his wife and the wife of another friend of mine, who were her friends. He said that she got drunk, told them what happened, and then, when they weren't sympathetic, invited Benny out with them. Said that it was a whole scene and she was all over him. She later admitted that she went and spent that night at his house, but swore up and down that they didn't sleep together and that she spent the night on his couch. Swore that she just felt alone, like none of her friends cared about her, and didn't want to be alone at the Airbnb. At the time, we were switching off staying at the marital home when it was our days with our son, and the other would leave to an Airbnb. We went to see a therapist at that time. Therapy went the way of straight trickle-truthing. She would wait to see what I knew, cop to only that, and swear there was nothing else. She swore that the time I caught her, when she spent an entire weekend with him in an Airbnb, was the first and only time. She cried, begged for me to believe her, asked for another chance, and wanted me to take her back. She said that he was old, that she didn't find him attractive, called him short, and said it was just a mistake. She claimed it wasn't about him, but rather about what she was going through, and he was just a symptom. She said she'd do anything. I told her she had to tell me the truth, and she refused to budge from her original story. After hitting a brick wall in couples therapy and her refusing to tell me the truth about what happened, I said I couldn't keep going. I signed a long-term lease and tried focusing on myself with the understanding that we would try therapy again in a few months. We continued to split custody 50-50ths, and Chrissy made a legit effort to help me settle into my new place. We started going through mediation for a divorce. Why start mediation if we were planning on trying therapy again? What we said out loud was that it takes forever, and if therapy went the same way as the first time, we didn't want to be stuck in limbo longer than we had to be. A couple of months into mediation, the mediator asked us if we had seen a therapist who specializes in infidelity. We said that we had seen a couples therapist, but not a specialist. She said she had some referrals if we were interested. Chrissy said she was, and that she'd be willing to go if I agreed to it. I agreed as well. With how far we had gotten through mediation, it felt like it was then or never. Going into seeing the specialist, I had given our marriage a 5% shot at surviving the year. But Mr. Throwaway, how could you not be 100% done after knowing that she was still lying about the affair? The plain answer is I wanted to believe that she would show up, tell the whole truth, and ask for forgiveness for what she had done and for not coming clean the first time. If she had done that, I think I would have seen a path, albeit a long one, back to trying to make our family whole. Also, the prospect of missing half of your son's life when they are so young is difficult to face, and just say that's 100% off the table. So we had a joint introductory session with the specialist, and then a week later, an individual one. It was after that when I was given information that Chrissy had still been seeing Benny. I didn't believe it. I looked into it, checked with a few other sources, and then was presented with indisputable evidence that she had not only continued to see him, but had brought him around our son multiple times. I haven't mentioned it, but we had an agreement that we would communicate with each other and get sign-off if anyone outside of family was going to be introduced or hang out with him. She had broken this agreement. I was crushed. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand it. Why agree to see the specialist if you've been seeing Benny? Why not just file and move forward? It felt like some sociopath behavior. I flat out asked her if she had been seeing Benny in an accusatory tone, and she admitted that she had. I asked if she had brought him around our son, and she straight up lied, saying that she only saw him when she didn't have our son and after our son had fallen asleep. I asked why she would agree to see the specialist if she had been seeing Benny. Why not just go through with the divorce? She said that she didn't want our son to grow up in a broken home. I lost it. I said some mean things that I honestly can't remember, but it was along the lines of her being just like her mother, and then I hung up. Then the fishing began. She texted, asked questions, and tried denying, without being specific about what she was denying, with lines like, "You jumped to an awful lot of conclusions there." She tried gaslighting me into thinking that it wasn't a big deal. I thought you'd be pumped to not have to go through any more therapy and make me be the one that called it quits. I honestly am appalled that you've taken the stance that you have. I started thinking about why I was so upset. I had told myself that the odds of therapy working out and her coming clean about the whole thing were low. This was the likely outcome. I wondered why I had agreed to go back, despite being told that she spent the night with him again after the first time I caught her. I started taking long walks at night when I didn't have my son to think about the whole thing. I reflected on all of it for a while and came to the conclusion that I was upset because I felt like she chose him over me, and that made me feel worthless. I ignored a lot of the things in an attempt to not feel worthless. After a few more walks, I came to the conclusion that that just wasn't true. She begged me to take her back on her terms, and I had refused her. She didn't choose him, she was stuck with him. Benny is sending his kid from his last marriage off to college. If he sticks around, he'll be collecting Social Security by the time Chrissy and my son is out of the house. He's supposed to trust her, knowing how they met? And she's supposed to trust him, knowing that infidelity doesn't bother him? Plus, imagine the anxiety that would wash over you when people ask how they met. She took away any doubt that moving forward with the divorce is the right thing. I'm stuck co-parenting with her, but I get to do that from a place of having seen her for who she is, and I can go into it with eyes wide open. Well, folks, that's all. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment, and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.